Hi and welcome to my 5-minute parsha. This week we begin the book of Vayikra, perhaps the most difficult book to really get into in the Torah. It lacks the narrative structure that the other books have. The book of Bereshit is fairly straightforward. You pick it up, you read it, and there's Abraham, and there's Sarah, and there's Yosef and the brothers, whereas the book of Vayikra is many, many laws, and not all of those laws are so easy to relate to. We tend to think of it as the book of Korbanot, the book of temple service. And whilst that is largely true, it's certainly not entirely true, especially as you start getting into the second half of the book. It is the book with the most mitzvot, and well over 100 mitzvot deal with social interactions, with theft, with the way that you treat people, with the agricultural gifts. But since the book starts with quite a heavy focus on korbanot, it's certainly easy to gain that impression that that is the book in its entirety. But Rabbi Adin Steinsaltz points out a very good description of the book of Vayikra is really the book of holiness. It is the book of how people are supposed to be holy. Now, the word holy is a very important one in Judaism, kedusha. Rabbi David Aaron always points out, if there is one goal of Torah and mitzvot, it can be summed up in the word kedusha, that we are supposed to become holy. And the proof that he brings for that is that he says, before virtually every single mitzvah that we do, we start by saying, Baruch atah Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam, blessed you Hashem our God, King of the universe, asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav, that you have made us holy with your mitzvot. That the goal of every mitzvah is to bring us to a level of holiness, or is at least connected to our holiness. We tap into the mitzvot through the holiness, the sanctity that we are given with the mitzvot. So this is clearly something absolutely focal and fundamental. Kedoshim to you, Hashem says to us, I want you to be holy. So the question, of course, is, so then what is holiness? When we think of holiness, we often think of it as something removed, as something distant. In fact, the Maharal of Prague does make this point sometimes, that holiness is something that is not so connected to the physical world, that is removed, that is abstracted. And there are times that that is holy. But the way Rabbi Steinsaltz puts it is a little different. He says holiness means being better than the wrong thing, being a greater person than doing what's bad. So, for example, he quotes a certain Hasidic Rebbe who said about one of his followers, you know why he doesn't sin? He doesn't sin because of pride. But he was saying that as a positive thing, not as a negative thing. There should be a sense within us that I am a good, holy, special, elevated person. And so therefore I won't do things that are beneath me. An example our sages give us is that when it speaks about some of the creepy, crawly animals we shouldn't eat, so you don't eat worms and cockroaches, it says, Anochi Hashem asher he'elicha me'eret Mitzrayim. I am Hashem who elevated you from the land of Egypt. I brought you up. I took you above this. The sages use the expression, you are now great and holy people. I don't want you grubbing in the mud and eating cockroaches and worms. It's the same thing. You can talk about, shrimps and prawns, the cockroaches of the prawns, the cockroaches of the sea. That's not, we don't eat it because Hashem told us not to. But Hashem didn't just tell us not to because it's separate from us, but because it's beneath us. And that's how we should see many of the korbanot. I'm not going to oppress somebody because I'm better than that. I'm not going to respond to someone out of anger because there is a holiness within me that is greater, that is beyond. And Rabbi Steinsaltz speaks about it in the Shla, the Shnei Luchot HaBrit speaks about it as well, that there is this idea of the ideal image of the human being in heaven that we are modeled after. There is ourselves as we express ourselves in the world here, and there is a perfect self that exists in heaven that we strive towards. And he uses the expression that we use actually as far as legal concerns. It says, Adam karov etzel atzmo. A person is close to himself. A person is viewed as having a vested interest in his own well-being. But the Shla says that's not what it is. Adam karov etzel atzmo. You are close to the perfect idealized image of yourself that exists in heaven. And our goal of holiness, our task is to bring ourselves closer to that, to become closer and more aligned. We're already close with that, to manifest and demonstrate that holiness in the world. Shabbat Shalom.